Lesson 3.1, Solving Quadratic Equations. How do you solve a quadratic equation by graphing and algebraically? Now we're going to review solving quadratics by factoring. We're being told that we have to solve this by factoring. So the first thing I always need to look for is a GCF. I see that they have no number GCF in common, but I see a variable of an x in common. So if I factor an x out, x times x would give me the x squared. X times a positive 9 would have given me the 9x. So this is me factoring out the x. This entire problem had originally equaled 0. So it still equals 0. We need to solve by factoring. So either this product is the 0 or this product is the 0. Either this factor is the 0 and I have x equals 0, or this factor is the 0. One of these factors or both of these factors are 0. So we need to solve for x to figure out what variables would have made this product 0. This one's already solved for, so we know that x could be 0. Now we need to solve for this. Subtract 9 from each side. We get x to be a negative 9. There are two values that x can be that would make this original problem equal to 0. Problem number 2. You always have to start with the GCF. The GCF that I see is 4x. So if I factor a 4x out of both of these terms, I get x, because 4x times x is 4x squared, minus 2. 4x times a negative 2 is a minus 8x. This entire thing equals 0. There are two factors. So either this factor is the reason why my problem equals 0, or this factor is the reason why my product equals 0. Two factors means I get two answers, so I need to solve for x for both of them. So for the orange one, divide both sides by 4, x equals 0. For the green one, add 2 to each side. So x is either equaling 0 or x equals 2. Problem number 3. I need to factor this because the direction said I had to solve by factoring. I see that this is a subtraction sign, and I see that the two terms, I can actually take the square root of both terms. The square root of x squared is x. The square root of 4 is 2. So this is a difference of squares. So x was in the front, 2's were in the back, and this entire product equaled 0. So I still have two factors. Either this is the factor that made the problem equal to 0, or this factor is the reason the problem equals 0. Two factors means I need two answers. We're going to solve for both. Solving for the orange, subtracting 2 from each side. X is negative 2. Solving for the green, adding 2 to each side. X equals 2. So x is either negative 2 or it is positive 2. Problem number 4. I see that I have two terms, and it's subtraction. So if I see two terms in a subtraction, I always first want to try, can I do the difference of two squares? I can take the square root of 9x squared. That's a 3x. I can take the square root of 25. That's 5. So I can break this into, factor it into the difference of squares. 3x was the answers for the front. 5 was the answers in the back. This entire problem was equal to 0. I have two factors. One of these factors is the reason it's 0. Either the first factor is the 0, or the second factor is the 0. So we're going to solve for both, and we're going to see what the answers for x are. Two factors gave me two answers. I have negative 5/3 and positive 5/3. I have a trinomial, meaning I have three terms. If I have three terms, then the only way to factor this is to do the a times c adds up to b. A is 1. Because a is 1, I know I can immediately break it into my two parentheses. A times c is 21. So I'm looking for what two numbers multiply to give me 21. B is a negative 10. So what two numbers multiply to give me 21, but when I add them, I get negative 10. Negative 3 and negative 7 will multiply together to give me a positive 21. When I add them, I end up getting a negative 10. So these are my two numbers that I would put here. X squared, the only way to get x squared is x times x. You said minus 3 and minus 7. I factored the trinomial. This entire problem equals 0. Now that it equals 0, either the first term is the 0 or the second term is the 0. We need to solve for x in both. Two factors meant two answers. X is 3 or x is 7. Problem number 6. I see three terms. I see a trinomial. The only way to solve for a trinomial is to do your a times c adds up to b. Very first thing I notice though, 2, 2, 24. These can all be divided by 2. So I have a GCF of 2. So I'm going to go ahead and factor 2 out of the entire problem and see if I can get a simplified trinomial. So dividing by 2, I get x squared. Dividing by 2, I get a negative x. Dividing by 2, I get a minus 12. I have a GCF of 2. I now need to factor this problem right here. A is 1. Since A is 1, I know I can factor it straight into two factors. So I need to do the A times C. Somebody better add up to B list so I can find those two numbers. A is 1. C is a minus 12. 1 times negative 12 is a negative 12. My B is a negative 1. What two numbers multiply to give me negative 12, but when I add them, I get negative 1? Negative 4 times 3 multiply together to get me negative 12. When I add these together, I get negative 1. So my two numbers are negative 4 and 3. The only way to get x squared was x times x. You said minus 4 and positive 3. 3 factors means that I need 3 problems to solve for. So either this is the reason my problem is 0. The second factor is the reason my problem is 0. Or the third factor is the reason my problem is 0. Never, never, never is it true that 2 will equal 0. So this factor actually does not give us an answer at all. Solving for the orange, x equals 4. Solving for the green, x is a negative 3. So even though we got 3 factors, one of them is not possible. So only 2 factors gave me 2 answers. I have 4 and negative 3. Problem number 9. There's a huge difference between number 9 and the other 8 problems that we have solved for. This does not equal 0. It has to equal 0 or you cannot solve the problem. So the problem first needs to equal 0, which means I need to do algebra to make it equal 0. So I want this 5x to move, and I want to make this equal 0. So we're going to subtract 5x from both sides. So I have a 2x squared minus 5x. My problem now equals 0. Now I can solve it by factoring. I see that they both have a GCF of an x. If I factor out an x, I have 2x minus 5 left over as my factor. So I have 2 factors, and each of these factors is the reason why my problem probably equals 0. This one's already solved for, x equals 0. Solving for this one, you need to add 5 to each side. I get 2x equaling 5. I need to solve for x. Divide both sides by 2. I get x to be the fraction 5/2. So 2 factors, 2 answers. X equals 0, x equals 5 over 2. Problem number 10. This does not equal 0 yet. If it does not equal 0, you can't factor it. I need to make it equal 0 so that I can factor. So we're going to subtract the x squared from both sides. I had 7x squareds, and I took away an x squared. I have 6x squareds left. So now my equation equals 0. I'm going to look for a GCF. I believe that I have a 2x as a GCF. So if 2x is my GCF, I have 3x plus 4 left over. I cannot factor this any further. That's fully factored. So I see that I have 2 factors that need to be equal to 0. Solving for 0 on both of them. So I saw 2 factors, which gave me 2 answers, x equals 0 and x equals a negative 4/3. There are 6 problems left of the page. Please do these 6 for independent practice.